For the past 10 years or so, there's a particular complaint about superhero movies that you see pop up again and again, and it's almost invariably worded the exact same way. They're all the same. As arguments go, it's wrong. I mean, if there's anything that the last 20 odd years of superhero media has taught us, it's that the genre can be pretty much anything. It can be sci-fi, high fantasy, a period war film, a spy thriller, comedy, a heist movie, legal drama, noir, a crime thriller, a coming-of-age teen comedy, space opera, romantic comedy, a martial arts film, a sitcom, supernatural horror, post-apocalyptic horror, R-rated comedy, or just a low-stakes drama series with no action scenes. And that's just Marvel. Go even slightly deeper with DC and you'll find even more variations to choose from. Go even deeper than that, and you'll find the more experimental and subversive takes on the medium that you didn't even know that you wanted. For example, you can look at 2012's Chronicle, where you can add found footage to the list. This is one of the more obvious examples of a superhero movie challenging what we expect from it. Taking a genre that's known for epic scale, larger-than-life scenarios, and flashy spectacle, and telling it through the literal lens of found footage, a genre more associated with minimalist filmmaking and more grounded, small-scale stories. But despite that, it works. The found footage approach is not just a gimmick, and it instead serves as a way of stripping back a lot of commonalities with superhero stories and turning what's left right on its head. Our main hero, protagonist, is Andrew, a teenage social outcast aside from his cousin Matt and the popular kid at school Steve, who all discover an unknown object buried underground which gives them telekinesis. Already the influence from other superhero media is on display here. You know, the awkward high school boy with little to no friends who gets bullied a lot, but then he comes into contact with something that turns him into someone extraordinary. Unlike, say, Spider-Man stories, though, that tend to play this kind of character's life in a fairly lighthearted way, this movie plays it in a more realistic direction. The bullying Andrew receives goes a lot further than just fairly tame insults and roughhousing, instead entering the realms of outright hostile verbal and physical abuse on a regular basis.
Pretty on camera. Come on, man, you look pretty. You gonna cry?
And keeping with that gritty tone, unlike Peter Parker, Andrew doesn't have a loving household to come home to and keep him on the straight and narrow.
What do you want?
Instead, he lives in an equally stressful home with his father Richard, who's worse than the kids at school, and his mother Karen, who actually cares about him, but is also seriously ill and not in a position to give him much support. Yeah, you know how whenever a new Spider-Man movie comes out and everyone always talks about how they want Peter to be fucking miserable, and then when we get it, it's Spider-Man Lotus? Well, this is Spider-Man Lotus, but with a character and style of story where that tone actually works. It highlights that for a lot of people like Andrew or even Peter Parker in a more grounded setting, the formative years of their lives oftentimes are horrible, and it does have lasting psychological effects. It also serves as a good way of incorporating the found footage aspect into the story. For his own well-being, Andrew has spent his whole life not opening up emotionally in front of people. Throughout the movie, he uses the camera as a sort of barrier between himself and others, keeping any interactions he has from getting too intimate by shoving this big, bulky machine in the middle of every conversation.
Maybe leave your camera on. It's a little weird.
It serves a purpose.
But there are moments where he does start to let his guard down with Matt and Steve, and in those moments, instead of placing the camera in between them, he actually leaves the camera off to the side, allowing them to talk without any walls up between them.
You don't feel like it's a little weird, like it puts a barrier between you and everything else?
I don't know.
So, like, what's up with your dad? What's his story? What does he do?
As for the telekinesis, first off, I like the fact that this object that gave them powers is never given any explanation. There's no big story of it being from some alien civilization or secret government lab. It's just left a mystery because the characters and their journeys are what's important. And the movie's treatment of superpowers also feels very much in line with how teenagers would behave if granted this kind of ability. They're at the age where things like responsibility, fear of the unknown, and being a productive member of society haven't exactly clicked for them just yet. So instead of fighting injustice, using it for their own personal gain, or even just thinking for a moment, oh my god, what did that thing do to us? We need to alert the authorities and get medical attention immediately. They instead just see it as a toy. They spend most of their time goofing around with it, all the while laughing off the severe nosebleeds it's causing them, not to mention being reckless enough to start pulling pranks with it, like messing with other people's property and...
Okay, wait.
Just looking at it.
Yeah, that kid's got years of therapy ahead of her. She can probably join Sid from Toy Story.
So play nice.
The three of them eventually get a reality check though when Andrew tries to subtly shift a moving car, has a slightly clumsy flick of the wrist, and...
Whoa! Andrew!
Oh, shit! Andrew, look at me. You put a guy in the hospital.
It's at this point that the characters decide to take a step back and use their powers in a more responsible way. Still not so much in terms of fighting crime, more just doing their own thing with it, playing around with it in private, exploring the possibilities, and generally just vibing with each other. It's again a unique take on superheroes as a concept that plays into the more grounded approach to the story. Not everyone has a burning obligation inside them to bring sweeping change to the world around them. Some people are going to be content to just stay in their own lane and would view powers like this as just a cool novelty to mess around with. And this all culminates in Andrew using it in an innocent enough way that benefits him, signing up for the school talent show and using his powers as a magic act. And the whole scene is a great display of Andrew finally showing everyone at school that he's worth a damn. He comes on stage looking all nervous, with everyone thinking, oh boy, this loser, what's he got that's so impressive? Andrew trips, seemingly ruining his own act, and just as everyone is thinking, yeah, pretty much what I expected, he does this. The act ends up being a big hit, with Andrew showing everyone that he can be way more charismatic, funny, and cool than they give him credit for. And for a brief moment after, Andrew's life looks like it's taking a turn for the better. His confidence is boosted, and people are being a lot nicer to him. But all that changes after one small misstep on Andrew's part.
Weirdo! Wait, what happened?
Okay.
Is that
I need you
it?
out of my way now.
In an instant, any street cred Andrew may have picked up is dashed, and because he's been in that boat so many times before, he even starts to turn away Matt and Steve, the two guys that legitimately do care about him.
Get out!
Drew,
What's your problem? You think this is funny?
No, I'm not laughing.
Get out!
The whole experience just makes him angrier at the world around him, which, for a character who has superpowers and up until now has been using them purely for his own benefit, that's not a good combination. He starts using his powers not even just for his own self-interest, but to actively hurt and punish anyone who's hurt him in the past, robbing and stealing, and eventually going on a massive rampage in a fit of anger. It's especially haunting to see this kid, who was a fairly mild-mannered and nice enough guy who had potential to come out of his shell, turn so openly malicious with such cold and calculated justification for why it's okay, even documenting it on camera.
There's this thing, right? It is called the apex predator. You do not feel guilty when you squash a fly. I just think that really means something.
And it's during this time, looking at all the factors that made Andrew this way, that we see just how miserable living with his father Richard is, and just how abusive and unsympathetic he really is. Richard himself seems to be going through a depression of his own. He lost his job as a firefighter and is now relying exclusively on welfare to support his wife and son. And while they do showcase the stress he's going through, it's not as easy to sympathize with him as you might think. As much as he claims to sacrifice everything to provide for his family, he doesn't seem too eager to help in any way that involves actual effort on his part. He mostly just sits at home and gets drunk. And yeah, the film says that he lost his job due to an injury, but he still seems at least relatively physically able, enough to at least try to get a new job, but we never see that. You could argue he's depressed, which to a degree is understandable, but he has a wife and son. Whether he likes it or not, he has obligations that he just doesn't fulfill because he thinks beating Andrew is a better use of his time. You might think that I'm being overly harsh here. You know, just because we never see Richard looking for another job, that doesn't mean he isn't looking for one. And early on, he does seem to be concerned for his wife's well-being. But it's only later on that you realize just how little he actually empathizes with his family, how much he uses his wife's condition for sympathy, and just how bad his relationship with Andrew actually is. Later on in the movie, while Karen is screaming in pain and Andrew is yelling to his dad for help, Richard is instead snooping in Andrew's room and finds his camera. Now, in a financially struggling family, finding an expensive camera in your not financially independent son's room is going to raise some questions. Questions which may perhaps have some innocent enough answers. Richard, though, being the type of guy looking for something to berate Andrew over, immediately assumes he stole the money from him.
Hoarding a $500 camera while your mom dies in there? I mean, how selfish can you be?
And Andrew, clearly having gone through conversations like this semi-regularly and just fed up with the whole process, just tells him he's wrong.
I didn't spend any of your money, Richard.
I don't have a dime to spend.
And you see from that response just how little Richard actually cares about this. No apology, no acknowledgement that he was jumping to conclusions, not even a moment of hesitation where he realizes that Andrew has just completely undermined the entire reason he's yelling at him. He just immediately continues guilt-tripping him over what has now been established to be nothing. He even shows that for all the bolstering he does about financially supporting his family, he doesn't even seem to know what that money is actually going towards.
Every last cent goes to school for you and medication for your mother, and now I can't even hear a goddamn thing, you idiot!
All of this eventually results in Andrew finally snapping, with his hate for the world around him finally boiling over, with Matt having to stop him.
They can't stop us. It's not too late for us to go.
It is too late. I'm done. It's over.
On the surface, it's again playing to a pretty common trope of superhero media. You know, the hero and villain flying through buildings and tossing debris at each other. But unlike a lot of superhero movies like, say, Man of Steel or The Avengers, which famously had these epic battles with explosions, the characters speeding all over the place, and undoubtedly millions in property damage and thousands of deaths, the fight in Chronicle is a lot more small scale and even kind of clumsy on the part of the characters. Most of the destruction just amounts to flinging some cars back and forth, the odd wall broken through, and the characters' movements are less swift and precise and more floaty and aimless. I mean, Andrew is knocked out of the air at one point by flying into a lamppost. You can argue the merits of having realism and a story with superpowers all you like, but in a realistic situation, this is a lot more in line with what someone like that would be like. They wouldn't be experts able to perfectly maneuver themselves around at high speed in a stressful situation, especially not early on. Their use of powers probably would be a lot more awkward and slow like this. The one thing that does sort of let this climax down from a dramatic standpoint is something that has kind of been a looming issue for the whole movie. That being Matt, who just isn't really that interesting of a character. The other two both have pretty clear and well-defined personalities and lives. Andrew is the introverted loser with an unhappy personal life, and Steve is the charismatic popular kid with big ambitions for his future.
Vote for Steve.
Matt, on the other hand, basically just exists to tell Andrew that he's going off the rails, and not to really be an interesting character in his own right. The only thing he really has going for him just on his own is that he has an equally forgettable girlfriend named Casey, who he has absolutely zero chemistry with, and who has such little relevance to the story that the Wikipedia synopsis mentions her once at the beginning and never again. And frankly, I think even that one mention is unnecessary. It all just makes it so that when you see his relationship with Andrew gradually fall apart as Andrew continues to lose it, it doesn't hit as hard as it should because you never really get much of a feel for why that matters to him or what he's losing by losing Andrew. There is also one other positive influence on Andrew's life with his mother Karen. She's one of the few people that treats Andrew with any amount of kindness, but she's also a major source of stress for him as she's suffering from cancer, is regularly in agonizing pain, and her treatments are becoming more and more unaffordable. Even so, she still feels a little underdeveloped. I mean, the sadness that Andrew feels is communicated very well with the scenes that show that he's forced to listen to her screaming in pain throughout the house on a regular basis. But the care that she feels for him is limited to only a couple of very quick scenes, about 20 seconds each, making her situation not hit as hard as it probably should. I mean, I can't imagine it was cut for pacing reasons. The movie is only about 80 minutes long. So yeah, there are some problems here and there, but overall, Chronicle is a very good movie that plays with the superhero genre in really interesting ways. The found footage approach is a unique one for this type of story, and it's bolstered by an equally engaging narrative that lends what could have been a gimmick some legitimate weight. I only really have to ask though what the director went on to make after this, because I'm sure it must have been fantastic.
Repeat that remark again.
Hey, did you like that video? Wouldn't you like to see more of them? Don't you wish you could pay for them? I certainly do. Lucky for you, if you head over to my Patreon, I have videos there that you can't see anywhere else. Videos talking about movies, games, other YouTubers I can talk shit about behind their backs, and all manner of other stuff. For example, I just recently posted an exclusive review for the movie They Will Kill You. Ever wondered what a cross between The Evil Dead and Kill Bill would be like? Neither did I, but it was pretty fun. Not to mention you'll get early access to scripts, early video releases, and your name at the end of every video. Speaking of which, special thanks to my Patreon supporters Heather Reed, Zelda, Moon Goddesses, The Hen Rolled, Chris Spicer, Jacob K, Wasp Sen, Andrew Taylor, and Antifa Count Duckula. Thank you so much for the support. Link is in the description.